In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 18, it says, I said in my heart concerning the state of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts, even one thing befalleth them, as the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they have also one breath, so that a man hath no preeminence above a beast for all his vanity. All go unto one place, as all are dust, and all turn to dust again. You know the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of beast that goeth downward to the earth. Wherefore I perceive there is nothing better than a man should rejoice in his works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? Now here we have some challenging verses here in the Old Testament about what happens after life, what happens when we die. Now, how many people here believe in heaven and hell? Absolutely, right? Does not the Bible teach about a heaven and a hell? Absolutely. But we see here in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 20, it says, all go unto one place, all are dust, and all turn to dust again. In Genesis 3:19 it says, in the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. He's talking about people here returning to unto dust. He's talking about basically saying, if you read these verses in isolation, it sounds like when you die, basically. It's saying, everyone's going to, as it says, all turn to dust again. As we read Ecclesiastes. And then when we read Ecclesiastes 3:22, it says, for what shall bring him to see what shall be after him? And it's a question mark. And if we can read some of these verses, we see some things that maybe draw into question about what happens after we die. Now, how many people here have heard of a doctrine called soul sleep? There are many people out there who will teach this. The Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christadelphians, the Seventh-day Adventists. And one thing I've really noticed on knocking on doors lately is a lot of people will say, hey, for sure you're going to heaven. And maybe they're not sure, but they'll say, well, when I die, I die. And there'll be the resurrection. And that's it. When I die, I just go to the ground. I'm dead. And then I'm waiting for the resurrection. And as we wonder, why did they think that? Well, you read some of these verses, and let's look at some of their arguments. We're going to take the first part of this sermon here just to look at some of the arguments that they have. Because these are the types of things that they will bring up when we go there. Now, do we not, as a church, do we not want to be able to defend the doctrine of Christ? Do we not want to know what the Bible says and to be able to, when we're confronted with some type of strange doctrine, how to deal with that? Now, if you turn in your Bibles to Psalm chapter 146, Psalm chapter 146, verse 4. And as you turn there to Psalm 146, verse 4, I'm going to read a few verses for you. Psalm 146, verse 4, but before we go there, we're going to take a look at some verses I'm just going to read for you. Now in Job chapter 14, verse 12, it says, so man lieth down and riseth not, till the heavens be no more. They shall not awake, nor be raised out of their sleep. Who we have in this verse is saying that the man basically when he lies down and he's not going to be woken out of his sleep. And then we have some challenging verses that when we think about heaven and hell, when we read these verses. How many people have ever read this and they felt, well, what's he talking about? I read that and I'm like, what exactly is he talking about? What exactly is he saying? Reading this in isolation from other verses in the Bible, you would have to think something's going on here. Now in Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7, we don't have to turn there, it says, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. In Psalm 115, verse 17, it says, the dead praise not the Lord, neither any that go down into silence. And basically saying that, those people who are dead, they don't praise the Lord. Neither those who go into silence. Basically saying, David, we have David talking about this a lot. He's saying, I can't praise thee in the grave. So we have some questions here about what exactly is going on when we die. We have some good questions. These people who believe in the doctrine of soul sleep, many people, how many people have run into someone like that? I think everybody has run into someone like that. They say, when I die, let's go to the ground. So, these are some good questions they're having. It's because, as it says in Psalm 157, the dead praise not the Lord, neither any that go down into silence. Now, I asked you to turn to Psalm 146, verse 4, and we're going to take a look at Psalm 146, verse 4. Hopefully, you're turned there in your Bibles. It says, His breath goeth forth. He returneth to his earth. In that very day, his thoughts perish. So he's saying, the very day that basically when they die, their thoughts perish. And that's it. You read Psalms, if you read this Psalm only, this line, that's what it sounds like. That's it. When you die, you just perish, your thoughts perish. So this is some troubling stuff. I think about, when you think about Jesus, Paul the Apostle, when he had a dispute, among the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And the Pharisees believed that there was a resurrection, and the Sadducees don't believe there was a resurrection. And as he was being challenged by just everybody, what he decided to do was, of course, bring this debate into the limelight. Now it says in Acts 23, verse 7, if you could turn to Acts 23, verse 7. Acts 23, verse 7. And when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the multitude was divided. The Sadducees say, there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. So here we see the bad Sadducees. I mean, the Sadducees had believed some really bad doctrine. They believed some false doctrine. I mean, they erred, not knowing the scriptures or the truth of God. And the Sadducees, they say there is no resurrection, neither an angel nor a spirit, but the Pharisees, they confess both. So we see this doctrine, I mean, even from the beginning of time, the Sadducees, at this time, I mean, they had 3/4 of the Bible available, yet they still did not believe in a resurrection. They still did not believe, basically, from what you read, this verse, it sounds like they believed that when you die, that was it, we're done. They didn't believe good doctrine. But now that doctrine is basically spread and the soul asleep and all kinds of junk and all kinds of garbage. And we have to look at it. We have to look at what their arguments are and try to understand why they're thinking the way they're thinking. Of course, in Psalm 146:4 it says, He his breath goeth forth, he returneth to his earth, and that very day his thoughts perish. If you can turn to Psalm 6, verse 5. Psalm 6, verse 5. Psalm chapter 6, verse 5. It says, in Psalm chapter 6, verse 5, for in death there is no remembrance of thee. Wow. He's saying, for in death there is no remembrance of thee. He's talking about God. For in death there is no remembrance of thee. In the grave, who shall give thee thanks? Who shall give thee thanks when you go to the grave? It's saying. And it's saying, for in death there is no remembrance of thee. In the grave, who shall give thee thanks? And these are the type of verses that people who believe in soul sleep, they love. They love these verses. And this is how they build this doctrine. They start building this doctrine on some of the verses that I read and just been reading right now. They're building that doctrine on the Old Testament scriptures. Now, here the thing is, when we have a conflict or some confusion about the Bible, we use the New Testament to interpret the Old Testament, and that is a tried and true method of every Bible student out there who will believe that. So there's questions or confusion about something, we use the New Testament to interpret the Old Testament. But this doctrine of soul sleep, in my opinion, is all built up on the Old Testament, pretty much exclusively, and in twisting New Testament scriptures. Now, if we turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 9, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5, we're going to look at. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5, it says, "For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything." He's saying the dead know nothing. The living know that they should die, but the dead, they don't know anything. He's saying basically when you're dead, you don't know anything. For the living know that they should die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished, neither have they any more a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. Now, yeah, you're right, the dead don't know anything. You're right. A dead body, they don't know anything. The body's perished. Of course, the memory of them is necessarily forgotten. But this is, you read this verse in isolation, and you're going to have some challenges understanding what happened when we die. You guys have some challenges. Now, I believe Solomon, he was speaking merely figuratively. And I believe that in the Psalms, they were speaking merely figuratively. And I believe I can back that up by what we're going to go over soon in the New Testament. But reading that in isolation, there is some problems, there are some questions about what happens when we die. Someone just reads those in isolation. Now, in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10, it says, just to jump down a few verses, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. There's no knowledge, no wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. This again, there's some good verses here. There's some good verses to really kind of back up soul sleep, to back up that when we die, we die. But the end of the day is, there is no knowledge or wisdom when someone goes to the grave. Their mind is gone. I mean, we don't have this body anymore. We're in heaven. We're spirits. Our soul is in heaven. We're not part of that body anymore. Reading this, how many people read that in isolation and say that's challenging? If you just read that in isolation, the proof does have hell. I think it's challenging if you read that. And we just have to look at this honestly, because this is how they're looking at it. You can turn to Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. 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 Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, it says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation even to that time." He's talking about the tribulation. "And at that time thy people shall deliver everyone that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt." Here we see in Daniel, he's stating that basically he's talking about, I believe he's talking about the rapture. I think it's pretty clear he's talking about the rapture. He's talking about the resurrection. And he's saying, many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Basically he's saying these people are asleep and they will still wake. So this is some of the stuff too that we see that we have that foundation that this doctrine of soul sleep is built upon. You see that they're asleep and that they will awake. Now, of course, we know during the rapture, the dead in Christ shall rise first, and we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord. The dead when we rise, their bodies will be risen. Those dead people, they will get their bodies. Those spirits in heaven will get their body. This is the type of verses they use. This is the type of twisting that we see in the Bible. And they have enough verses that would cause some confusion. But we have to be good students of the Bible and read the Old Testament and read the New Testament. Understand why we believe the things that we believe, because we will be challenged on this. In John chapter 5, verse 28, it says, "Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in the which all that in the grave shall hear his voice and shall come forth, they that are good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation." And that kind of go hand in hand with what we see in Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. He's talking about those people. Basically, he's talking about the resurrection. those people who there'll be resurrection of life and the resurrection of damnation. So we see some good verses. We see some good verses that they have to try to back up this doctrine. I believe that just these verses alone, if you just read them, hey, that is enough to look and have a see and see. I can see what they're saying. I can see what they're saying. Now, if you turn your Bibles to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. As you go there, I'm going to read a verse from 1 Corinthians 15, verse 6. It says, after that, he received about 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. He's saying here in 1 Corinthians 15, 6, he says, after that he shall be seen about 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. He's talking about those people that, he's talking about those dead Christians. He's saying that some people are fallen asleep. And this is the type of doctrine, this is the type of, that goes hand in hand with what the people who believe soul sleep believe. They believe they're fallen asleep, that there is waiting. They're in like this, kind of like this freeze period, where they're just in the ground. And believe it or not, this is something, from what I understand, this is something that even Martin Luther believed. He believed in the doctrine. From what I didn't do exhaustive research, but I believe that, from what I understand, he believed in the doctrine of soul sleep. Now, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13, 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13, it says, but I will not have you ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. So here we see that doctrine here, that he didn't want these people to be sorrowful over those other Christians that they knew died, because they would be risen again. And this again is some verses that will be used to back up that doctrine of soul sleep. Now, if you turn your Bibles to John chapter 11, John chapter 11, verse 23. John chapter 11, verse 23. John chapter 11, verse 23. And just to get some context here, it says, we're going to go back actually just a couple more verses. John 11:21, it says, then saith Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. She's talking about Lazarus. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Jesus saith unto her, thy brother shall rise again. Talking about the resurrection. Jesus is talking to Martha, Martha's saying, I know that, Martha's saying to Jesus, if you had been here, I know that my brother would have died. Because Jesus, he did so many things. He did so many great things. She basically said, I know that you could have raised him from the dead. Jesus said to her, thy brother shall rise again. This is Martha's response. Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. She believes that, and the Pharisees believe in the resurrection. Now, we're going to get some clarification here from Jesus. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection. I am the resurrection and the life. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Shall never die. And he says, believest thou this? He's basically saying, I am the resurrection. He that liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Does that sound like that when you go into the grave, if you believe on Christ, that you're just sitting around, hanging around, waiting for a long time? You're dead then. He's saying here that he that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth in me, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Here I believe it's Jesus clarifying here. Something about the resurrection. Something about what happens when we die. Now this is something that I bring up a lot to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they still do not believe that. They're saying he's talking about the resurrection. So let's just go ahead and look forward. If you can turn your Bibles to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. 2 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2. We're going to talk about Paul. We're going to talk about an experience that Paul has. And I believe it's Paul. It's not crystal clear that it's Paul, but this is pretty much consensus that he's talking about himself. And if you read it, it's not the easiest to understand, but I believe it's clear that he is talking about himself. And it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 12, it says, I knew a man in Christ about 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell. God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the third heaven. And I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell, God knoweth, how that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which is not lawful for a man to utter. Now here we have an experience that Paul, I believe, he's talking about himself. And he had this experience, and he was caught up to the third heaven. And he heard those things that were unspeakable, that is not lawful for a man to utter. I believe he had a great experience. I believe that he was caught up. He wasn't sure if he was in the body or out of the body. He couldn't tell. And Paul had been stoned to death. Paul had suffered great things in his life, and I think he had this great experience where God basically allowed him to see the heavens, to see perhaps Jesus, to see the glory of God, to see what would happen after his life. I think he gave him an opportunity to see where would we be when we die. This great place that we're all waiting to go for. I mean, how many people are just waiting to go to that place and get out of this happiness? I mean, I have things I want to accomplish here. So I have a purpose. I believe we all have a purpose. But there is a better place for us when we die. And this, we see here in these verses. What a great place that this is when we die. Now, whether people who believe in the doctrine of souls, might say, well, God was just trying to show to Paul what would happen when there was a resurrection. They might say that. And if they do, what do you say? That you don't have the greatest argument here, do you? Is that you might, I think for sure that that's still not the case, but if you're trying to argue with one of these people who believes in soul sleep, that's going to be tough. Now, let's look at that. Let's look at some more things that Apostle Paul said. Now, was the Scripture not inspired? Or did not holy men of God say, as they knew about the Holy Ghost? Was not Paul the apostle? Was not Paul, when you read the words of the doctrine of Paul, is that not the Word of God? Is he not a holy man of God who spake as he was moved by the Holy Ghost? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't believe the Bible, I cannot convince you of anything. When it comes to doctrine, it's going to be real hard. Now it says here in Philippians chapter 1, verse 23. Philippians chapter 1, verse 23. If you turn there, Philippians chapter 1, verse 23. This is Paul talking, the Apostle Paul. And I think this is kind of like a mentality we should have. I think this is something that, as a church, as people who live, and this is something that we should have. This is a mentality I think we should have. Paul says, for I am in a strait betwixt two, having a desire to depart and to be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to abide the flesh is more needful for you. Paul's saying here, I have a conflict. I want to depart and be with Christ. Amen. I want to depart and be with Christ. I want to be with Jesus. He's saying, hey, I want to be with Him. I mean, the greatest thing you had in your life, the greatest things you had in your life here on earth will never compare to what you will have in heaven with Jesus, with the Lord God, with God Almighty, with the saints in heaven. Nothing will ever compare to that. And he's saying, I'm straight betwixt two. He's having a conflict here. He wants to be with Christ, but at the same time, he knows it is needful to be with them. And that's kind of like our mentality we should have. We should want to be like, hey, I can't just wait to get to heaven. And to be in that place, to be in a place where there's no soul, no pain, where I won't be able to sin anymore, where I won't have this flesh anymore. Just bears me down sometimes, and I just can't overcome some of the sin that I have. Because we struggle. Why we have to get to a time where I'll never be there. I'll never have that struggle anymore. Then I'll be with God. I'll be with Jesus. I'll have my glorified body. But he says to be with you is more needful. Now, what is he talking about here? Are you telling me he's talking about that when he departs, going to be sleeping in the grave for like it's been 2,000 years already. I mean, this is like 2,000 years ago. Are you telling me he's like, hey, I'm a straight betwixt two, having a desire to be with Christ? Well, first, before I be with Christ, I'm going to be sleeping for 2,000 years, and then I'm going to wake up, and then I'll be with Christ. It's not what he's talking about. That makes no sense at all. He's like saying, when I die, basically he's saying here, this is what Paul's saying. Either I'm living with you and trying to do things that are needful for you, or I'm with Christ. There is no in between. That's what I believe he's saying. I believe that there's no doubt about it in my mind. Now, if you could turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6. This is something that we can, as you turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6, this is something that if we could just put these verses in our mind, if we could maybe even write these verses down and realize these verses when we go out and give people the gospel, because they're going to come up, and these are some great verses. Now it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6, therefore we are always confident, knowing that whilst we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. Paul's saying, while we're at home, when we're here on earth, are we absent from the Lord in a sense? We have the Holy Ghost living within us, but we're not with the Lord Jesus in heaven, right? Are we with the Lord Jesus in heaven right now? No. They say here that while we're at home in this body, we're absent from the Lord, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Verse 8. We are confident, I say, and willing rather, to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. He's saying, we're willing to be absent from this body and be present with the Lord. How many people are looking at that? Are you looking forward to that? To be present with the Lord Jesus? Rand, are you looking forward to that day? You be present with Jesus in heaven? It'd be a great day, won't it? Hey, we gotta realize how great that will be. We gotta be willing to be absent from the body and be present with the Lord. And we gotta think about this. We don't know how much, just our subject, we don't know how much time we have. We don't know when that day's gonna come. I mean, people are dying left, right, center. The older they get, more people are dying. And we don't know when that time's gonna come. We want to use that time wisely. And we want to be, when we get there, that we believe that we accomplish what God wants us to accomplish in this earth. Something to think about this new year, that we want to accomplish something for God, that He wants us with His will, that He wants us to accomplish. But He's saying that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. It's not to be present in the ground, waiting for the resurrection. He's saying to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord God, with the Lord Almighty. The greatest father we could ever have, and we all love our fathers, and our fathers here on earth, our earthly fathers died, but there will be a time when we reunite with our real Father, God the Father. That will be the greatest thing in the world. Now, if you turn your Bibles to Luke chapter 16. Luke chapter 16, verse 22. Luke chapter 16, verse 22. Luke chapter 16, verse 22. And it says here in Luke 16, verse 22. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and was carried by the angel into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue. For I am tormented in this flame. Of course, we have this great parable. We see the great parable here of the literal, not parable, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. That is not a parable. That is, this Jesus always had in interpreted parables. This is not a parable. This is not a parable. What we see here is a reality of a story that Jesus is telling, a true story about a man named a rich man and Lazarus. And Lazarus wakes up in hell. Lazarus wakes up in paradise, in Abraham's bosom, and the rich man wakes up in hell. Now, are these guys sitting in the ground? Are these guys sleeping in the ground? Did I miss something? Well, how come they're not in the ground? I mean, Lazarus is in Abraham's bosom. Lazarus is in paradise. And we have the rich man, he's in hell. And he's in torment. So, based on this verse, is Jesus a liar? Because Jesus didn't say this was a parable. He didn't come up with some fancy interpretation and explain what he really meant. This is just the truth. So should that not be alone to just totally squash anything these people who say they're soulful? This should be enough to just squash them. I mean, I'm sorry, but the poor, I mean the rich man who was in hell, he would love to just be in the ground sleeping. That doesn't sound like a good rest to wake up in hell. That sounds like a terrible rest. Now in Jude chapter 1 verse 7, we don't have to go there, it says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Sodom and Gomorrah was suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. He's talking about these people not sleeping, but suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. This is another clear indication that there is a hell. We see this is the previous scriptures. We see the indication of a literal heaven, a literal hell. We see more indication here of a literal hell, and that those people in Sodom and Gomorrah were suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Now, if you turn your Bibles to Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. Revelation 6, verse 9, it says, now maybe these people don't get it yet. I don't know how you just dismiss this. I don't know how you dismiss the rich man of Lazarus. I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't know how you dismiss Jude verse 1, verse 7. I have no clue. People do it. I don't know how you dismiss what Paul said, the absence of the body is the presence of the Lord. And you wanted to be with God. But Revelation chapter 6, verse 9, it says, Revelation chapter 6, verse 9, it says, and when he opened the fifth seal, and when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? White robes were given unto every one of them. They were set unto them that they should rest there for a little season, till their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So here we see here, under the altar, the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? They were crying beneath the altar. They had voices. They were alive. They were alive. These people were saved people. They wanted vengeance on those people who had taken their lives. They wanted vengeance on the people. And it says on the Antichrist, who was coming out and having his reign of terror during the tribulation. And they wanted that vengeance. They wanted to see God set it straight. They wanted to see the justice of God. Hey, these people, my friends, were not asleep. This was not before, this is clearly before the resurrection. I believe that. These people had voices. These people were in heaven. These were saved Christians who died for the word of God. These people were alive. Now in Revelation chapter 20, verse 13, it says, and I saw the sea give up the dead which were in it. You can turn there to Revelation 20, verse 13. It says, and I saw the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every man according to their works. Now what is saying here? He's saying, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. Now, he's saying death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. He's talking about hell here. He's talking about those people. Of course, it says, of course, these people will be cast into the lake of fire. He's saying, death and hell deliver up the dead which were in them. He's making a John, of course, wrote Revelation. He's making another reference is being made here to hell. The death and hell deliver up the dead which were in them. And of course, it's very clear. He's talking about hell. He's talking about those people. There is no soul sleep, my friends. There is no soul sleep. When we die, when we go to heaven, we go to hell. If you're saved, you believe on Jesus, you believe in the blood that He shed for you, for that payment for your sins, if you put your faith and trust in that, hey, you're going to heaven when you die. That's the greatest thing in the world. That's the greatest thing in the world. There's no way. There's no way there. It says, hey, that's it. When we're out of here, it's done. We're going right up to heaven. That's it. If those people who have not trusted Christ, those people who are not saved, they're going down to hell. And just waiting to be transferred inside to the lake of fire. It's just the same concept. It's not going to be any different at the great white throne judgment. If they wake up for a few minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours a day, I don't know how long it'll be, and be cast in the lake of fire. So there is this concept. Now this concept, I believe this concept of soul sleep, I believe if you take a look at it. Now, if someone believed this, I think they could probably maybe still be saved if they had some misunderstandings on this. I think Martin Luther probably was saved. Now maybe you disagree with that. I believe he had faith alone. He was really big about faith alone. I know there's some talk about maybe baptism was required for salvation. Of course it's not. I believe he was probably saved. And I believe that it's possible that someone can be confused about this and still be saved. I think it's probably the case. But the thing is that what this doctrine really is attacking is it's trying to attack the idea of hell and heaven. If you take a look at the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christadelphians, who believe this doctrine of soul sleep, they believe in annihilation. They believe that God will not cast somebody into the lake of fire forever and ever. They don't believe that a loving God would judge someone. And I'm not saying that you can't necessarily say, well, because they believe, I'm making this correlation, say that they are entrenched in false doctrine. And this is just one of their errors. And it's really an attack on the idea of hell and heaven. It's an attack on that. I see so many people say they just go to the ground. They're trying to make light of the fact that when we die, you're either in heaven or you're in hell. And that is the thing that has to motivate Christians. That is the thing that has to motivate us so much. The idea and the concept. I had another person at work who I found to die. And I never gave her the gospel. And I got this email on Thursday and day as I was trying to work on some document. And I said to myself, to give him the gospel, I had the opportunity. My friend, I don't believe that man got saved. And he woke up in hell. He woke up in hell. And these small doctrines about soul sleep, if you look at it now, I believe that the Seventh-day Adventists, they don't believe in annihilations. But the Christadelphians, the Jehovah's Witnesses, who put forth this doctrine of soul sleep, who really believe it, believe in annihilations. They believe that if somebody does not go to heaven, well, I don't know exactly what they believe about heaven. They got some so crazy ideas and beliefs about some people here. I don't even know exactly. They don't believe. They believe that those people who are not in heaven or wherever, they just die. That's it. They're done. They cease to exist. Hey, they don't even wish they could cease to exist at that point. That is the attack I believe on this false doctrine of soul sleep. I believe it's really, mainly, it's more geared towards that attack about what happens when we die. Now, of course, in Luke chapter 23, verse 42, and you don't have to go there, it says, Luke chapter 23, verse 42, it says, he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. glorification of heaven and hell. We see what Paul says, he asked him for bodies to be present with the Lord. I mean, he wanted to be with Christ. He wanted to be with Christ. We see many verses talking about hell. Hell being a place of everlasting fire, everlasting punishment. Sodom and Gomorrah were suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. We know that hell exists. We know that heaven exists. The thief on the cross just simply said to Jesus when he said, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. He said, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. Did he say today, or did he say in a couple thousand years, thou shalt be with me in paradise? Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. Maybe a couple thousand years from now you will be in paradise. He didn't say that. He said, today thou shalt be in paradise. He said, today. Today. This is not an exception to the rule. This is not an exception to the rule. And that's the greatest thing about the gospel. Hey, those people who could be on their deathbeds. Hey, if you just know that God, I bet God is trying to draw anything. Hey, just come to God. Just ask forgiveness. Believe in His blood. Pay for your sins. It's that simple. It's not our works. It's not anything we've done. Those people will be with God in heaven. That moment. Today, they're talking. This is clear. I don't see how these people can believe this. They have some good verses from the Old Testament taken in isolation that really could get someone to question. Those verses taken in isolation would get anybody to question who was just trying to be objective and rational. Now we might look at it like this. Do we see that there are now also evidence of men we see in the Bible who are in heaven, Christians who are in heaven, that we see in the New Testament in Revelation chapter 22, verse 9. Revelation chapter 22, verse 9. Now, of course, as you turn to Revelation 22, verse 9, those people who are in heaven, why aren't they sleeping in the ground? Because the resurrection hasn't happened. So if there's people in heaven from the Bible talks about people in heaven, can we believe that heaven exists? Absolutely. Can we believe that we will go there? Absolutely. That is the greatest thing in the world. I mean, to me as a Christian getting saved, the greatest thing in the world was to escape hell. I mean, that was my main motivation. I don't want to go to hell. That, to know that I can just take an honest look at our lives and know who we are, know this thing we got right here. And I was talking to Brother Jordan about it, just some of the thoughts that we can think, they're wrong. And this on a regular day, we're struggling with this in here. We're struggling with this thing in here. We're struggling in the flesh. We're struggling with that. And to know that someday we're going to be in heaven, that is one of the greatest things. Now, in Revelation 22, verse 9, it says, this is now, of course, we're talking about John. John, he was on the island of Patmos as he got the book of Revelation. In Revelation 22, verse 9, it says, then say he unto me, see unto it not, for I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren the prophets, unto them which keep the sayings of this book, worship God. So this is the man who was given, in a sense, John of Revelation. Of course, John also sees Jesus in Revelation chapter 1. But there's also another man, I believe, giving him that helping him with this revelation, helping him to see the things that would happen. And when John, in a sense, he bows down to this man. But this man has told me, you don't bow down to me. You don't bow down to me. Who are we supposed to bow down to? Are we supposed to bow down to a man? Are we still supposed to bow down to a pole? Are we supposed to bow down to a pastor? Maybe even my friend George is like, I don't want to do an altar call because I don't want to look like I'm bowing down to the pastor. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong to do an altar call, but he's like really taking it. I know, well, that's fine. You got to be, whatsoever is not faith is sin. But we see this man, he's in a sense setting straight with John. Hey, don't bow down to him. Why should he not bow down to him? Because he says, I am my fellow servant. and of thy brethren, the prophets. Now, them which keep the sayings of this world worship God. He's saying, I'm one of thy brethren, the prophets. He's saying, now, is a prophet an angel? Or is a prophet like David, or Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah? Of thy brethren, are the angels your brethren? That's not a term that's really used. I mean, maybe in heaven, but that's not really the Bible context. You always say, so I am of thy brethren, the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book, worship God. This man, I believe this man is a prophet. And I believe all one of the prophets. He's giving John that book of Revelation. This man, the resurrection had not happened during the book of Revelation. Are we one of those people who believe that the revelation really happened? What's the term? Preterists. Are we preterists? Is there any preterists in this room? I don't think so. This man, my friends, this man, he lived and he was in heaven. He's in heaven. He was not sleeping. He was not enjoying a good 2,000-year sleep, waiting for the resurrection. This man was alive and kicking. Now, of course, we know that Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. Now, some of these people say, the soul said, well, God had a reception for Elijah. He brought him up in a whirlwind. Okay, I guess maybe. I don't think so. Now, if you turn to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4. It says here, by faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by he being dead, yet speaking. He being dead, yet speaking. Doesn't sound like those people who don't have any thoughts anymore when they perish. Does it? Now it says here in Hebrews 11 verse 5, by faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death. It was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had his testimony that he pleased God. No, also Enoch, he was translated. I think that sense means most people believe he was right. He was taken up. He was like Elijah. But just to look at this, if you think about that story, we're not going to go back to Cain and Abel. Remember, Cain kills Abel, right? And God says that he heard Abel's voice from the ground, crying for him. And here it says in Hebrews 11 verse 4, it says that Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by he being dead, yet speaking. Abel was dead and spoke. Abel was not sleeping. Abel was alive. Abel wasn't sleeping. We see this a case here. We know that the prophet in Revelation that spoke to John, he was alive. We know that Abel was alive. We know that we think of the Mount of Transfiguration. When Jesus appeared in his glorified body, and there was two other prophets there with him, Moses and Elijah. Now, soul-sleeping people would say, well, Elijah, they made an exception for him, and he got raptured up, he's just one of these special guys. What about Moses? Moses died! They didn't even know where to leave his body! Moses died. He's right here with Jesus. He was in heaven. Moses was in heaven. Why was he in heaven? He loved God. He believed in God. He believed on our Lord Jesus. Of course, Jesus wasn't there at the time, but he believed on God. He was a righteous man. Of course, it was not his righteousness God's in heaven. It was his faith. It was his great faith that got him to heaven. Moses was in heaven. We see a lot of arguments here. We see I don't honestly think. Is there any question of where we're going with God? Is there any question? Where we go? Does anyone have a question where we're going with God? If we believe in Jesus? Is there any question where people who don't believe in Jesus are going? That they will have an eternity in hell? There's no question. Now, if we take a look, we're going to close here. We're going to take a look at one more set of verses here in Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7, verse 54. Acts chapter 7, verse 54. Acts 7, 54. We talk about Stephen here. When they heard these things, they were cut to the heart, and they gnashed on him with their teeth. Now this is of course Stephen as he's confronting the Jewish people. He's confronting those people who haven't believed on Christ. I know that some of these are some great verses that we've gone to again and again, but if we just look at these verses one more time, it says, but he's talking about Stephen being full of the Holy Ghost. Stephen here was full of the Holy Ghost, looked up steadfastly into heaven, and saw the glory of God, and Jesus standing on the right hand of God, and said, behold, I see the heavens opened, and the Son of Man standing on the right hand of God. I believe that, what God was showing Stephen here, He was giving him, I believe He was giving him probably a preview of heaven. It says that he was full of the Holy Ghost. Stephen wasn't drinking. Stephen wasn't on drugs. He was full of the Holy Ghost inside heaven. And he saw God, he saw Jesus on his right hand. I believe he was getting a preview. God, I believe, was blessing him for being a martyr, for sticking up for those things that the Word of God says. And God was giving him a preview, I believe, of where he would be. And this is in verse 57, it says, then they cried out with a loud voice and stopped their ears and ran upon him with one accord and cast him out of the city and stoned him. And the witnesses laid their clothes at the young man's feet, whose name was Saul. And they stoned Stephen, calling upon God, saying, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. He said, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. Now, think about it. He was full of the Holy Ghost when he did this. He said, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. He wasn't saying, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit in 2,000 years of the resurrection. No, I believe he's saying, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit right now. I believe if you read this is some really powerful verses in the book of Acts. This has to be one of the most exciting, some of the most exciting verses we can see. And I believe that he was received up. I believe I can't prove this unequivocally, but I believe he was getting a preview of heaven. And God was so pleased with what he was doing. And he got to see the heavens open. And he said, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. He knew where he was going. He knew where he was going to be on the cross. But no one he was going. He was received up, I believe, in heaven. Just like the prophets, just like Lazarus, just like many others, just like Moses. And as we look at this doctrine of soul sleep, and it might not be something that's talked about much, but I know that I've encountered it a lot with many people out home. And it's something that we want to be able to, as people who love God's word, just lovingly correct those people who would hear the truth. And many of them will hear the truth. Now, many of them won't. But many of them, they hear this, they will hear the truth. Many people, right, when we give the gospel to people, who don't believe the gospel correctly, who believe that salvation is something that they have to do, something they have to work for, you can correct them by giving them the scriptures, and we can correct them too. And we ought to just be thankful for Jesus. We ought to be thankful for knowing that hope, that where we go when we die, that is straight to heaven. Straight to heaven. We're taken out of this thing. If the worst thing they can do is take our lives. If you're saved, I believe everyone is saved here today. Hey, if they take our lives, that's all right. We're going right to heaven. We're going right to heaven. It doesn't matter what I go through. Why should we worry? I'm not going to anything. We're going straight to heaven. We die. Maybe we like Stephen. Have an experience that Stephen had. We can know that. It's going to be a meeting. That's a great thing. That's a safe thing to realize. No matter what you do, serving Christ, don't worry. Worst thing to happen is God. You're right hand. Lord Jesus, let's pray. Brother Orny, would you close us off in prayer?